What's up, party people? This is Tarkus Jude Mossberg here from Facebook. Jude's Junk, Facebook comic book shop, YouTube channel profile is Tarkus Jude Mossberg. And this is not really like a heartfelt letter to an artist that we lost, because a lot of us don't know these artists unless you've really gotten to know them somewhere. But this is just my inside view of losing an artist like Gerry Conway just died. And yes, we know the books will go up in value. Yes, we know that some groups don't want you to post their books for sale right away because it's not viewed positively by a lot of groups, I guess, or buyers, sellers. And the demand may go up, it may not. But I've been collecting since 1980, and so what does it mean to me when these artists die? So I was out for about 30 years, from 1992 to 2021. I wasn't really collecting. Got back in 2021, and I'm semi-retired now, so it's kind of like a full-time hobby that's taken over my. I have a pretty big office up here, but it's all books as far as the eye can see. But it's peaceful, calm. A lot of nostalgia, right? For those of us who got through the 80s, some of you maybe the 90s collecting, maybe you didn't really collect until the early 2000s. Well, when I got back into it, Stan Lee had just died, I believe. And you realize an opportunity to get some of these artists to sign it will be gone forever. And I really got attracted to Signature Series books. Whenever there's an artist that comes to CGC, if they're older, in their 70s, I make it a point to get some of those books, because those once they're gone, they're just gone. You know, you'll uncover some more raw books that will turn into a 9.8 of Star Wars 1 or any kind of book from the 80s or even the 70s. It's harder to get find a Silver Age that comes in a 9.8, because we really got into values and bagging, boarding, and taking care of books, I guess, in the early 70s. That's why a lot of bronze books aren't worth as much as Silver Age books, because it was a different time frame. They were making more, and we took better care of them. But I started collecting in 1980, and Gerry Conway actually goes back a ways. I have some books of his. He might even be in the 60s. But for us old guys, it means not only remembering our childhood and the nostalgia of that, but it's like, oh wow, our own death is coming. These were some of the artists that we may or may not even known at the time. I don't know if a lot of people knew Gerry Conway at the time. They mostly knew the artists' names, at least in the 80s. The writing was, I guess, Chris Claremont and some of the better Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman. So some of the better writers were known, and the cover artists were starting to get more and more popular, Todd McFarlane. But seeing some of these artists die is not only do they bring back the nostalgia of the books, but they also bring back your own mortality. So there's a sense of what do you want to say? Life has moved on. Life has gone by quickly in 50 years. 1980 was 46 years ago. 1976 was 50 years ago. So 50 years seems like it went by really quick. So for a lot of us collectors that are in that 40, 50, maybe early 60s range, there's a lot going on when you see these artists die. That's more about us than the actual artist. We don't know their situation. Maybe we don't know their finances. Maybe, like some of the sad stories of the Superman artists that died broke, right? Some of those early artists that died broke. That's why a lot of work was done to make sure, artists and writers were taken better care of as movies went on to produce Superman, and those guys who created Superman didn't get any piece of that, and so there's that sadness. But a lot of these artists did pretty well in their career, recognized, appreciated, and Gerry just went to a con. He just came to the con end of 2025. He did something, I think, in Seattle, and then said, "This was my last con," and I was like, how do you know it's your last con unless something's going on? But he went to a small bookshop, I think in Washington, probably near his house, and probably some kind of promotional thing just for the local comic book store. Say, hey, this is my last one. And he didn't say that about CGC, but these artists are getting older. I've heard Frank Miller is getting, you always think Frank Miller's going to be there. We can always get Frank Miller signatures. And I've noticed a lot of Frank Miller stuff has gone up pretty significantly lately. And I haven't seen Frank show up to CGC, so I'm a little nervous he might not come anymore. And there's more books I want to get of him. Granted, us collectors, we're thinking about us. We're thinking about our books, and to some extent, I get it. That's we're looking at movies that move the needle. We're looking at things like this that move the needle. Anything moves the needle, we're paying attention to. And if you know the people and know the family, that's a different story. But for those of us that collected during that time frame, it's almost like a loss of our childhood. It's like, whoa. When you see movie stars, movie television actors that pass away, it's like, wow, that was a big part of my childhood. These comics were a big part of my childhood. And those artists from the 80s, especially the 70s and 80s, they're not long for this world. If they were 20 years old doing artwork, which was young, but there was a lot of teenagers that were doing artwork, Rob Liefeld and those guys. I think Jim Lee might have been that young. A lot of people were young in the 70s and 80s, teenagers writing and doing art. 50 years ago, I know 76 was 50 years ago, but you're looking at 70-year-old people. I don't know if Todd's quite 70 yet. He might be getting close. But a lot of these people want to slow down. They may or may not want to go to cons. Maybe they're doing their last grasp at that nostalgia of yesteryear when they were young and healthy and famous. And I know people make fun of Frank Miller's art, and he might not be able to do anything better. He might be using total computer graphics, and that's all he can do. And he might be sad that he can't, draw like he used to as well. So if he's doing it on some kind of computer graphics and Marvel is still buying them and selling them, then somebody wants it. So there's just, yes, I have books that are signed by Gerry Conway. Yes, I believe their value has gone up. At the same time, this happens every couple months. You're my age. They're just going away. You might be younger and you might not have any relationship with these people. We didn't really have a relationship with them. They were the ones doing the books that we were selling. And maybe if you collected during the 90s, you're more into the Rob Liefeld and Jim Lees and McFarlane's and, maybe even, what's his name? God, I just had a Spawn 19. Who was the guy that started with Spawn in number 16? He's probably not that old, but that was in the 90s. So if you collected in the 90s and, maybe those are the comic books you like, that's great. They're probably not as close to death as those of us that collected in the 70s and 80s. So CNR artists die off is reverse nostalgic. If you say nostalgic, I wonder if there's could be good nostalgia and bad nostalgia, I guess. Buying the comic books, and that's why we collect these old guys, is good nostalgia. It's always interesting to me the people that collect books before they were reading, like the Golden Age guru, buying the Golden Age stuff. You could have a desire to learn about history and what happened before you were collecting, and that's kind of cool. I haven't been able to get that. I didn't really collect in the 70s, so I couldn't afford these books in the 70s and the 80s. We were barely 40 and 60-cent books. So now I can go back and get the books in the 70s, and I pretty much collect only 9.8 of those books. Got this Marvel Tales 106, 1979 direct edition, 9.8, signed by Roy Thomas, Gerry Conway. Came out before I was collecting. But it was the first reprint of ASM 129 back in the 70s. Early direct from like 1979. Early direct, right? Hard to find directs in the 70s. The directs didn't become mainstream until the 80s. But in the late 70s, those directs are the rare ones. And if you notice in some of the books, the direct editions of the 1970s books that are hot keys, often go for more than the newsstand. So FYI. Anyways, my thoughts on Gerry Conway is my thoughts as it pertains to me. A lot of collectors were thinking about, wow, another artist is gone. What does that mean for our mortality? We can, should I send in? You start thinking, should I send in more books? You think someone's always going to be there, like a Frank Miller? He's not. He's got a lot of health problems. He might not be passed away, but he might not be able to physically get to CGC. It might just be too much stress in the body. My dad, when he had Parkinson's, he couldn't travel anymore. He couldn't travel to see us, and he had a grandson because the plane ride and everything was too rough. So it's a big name. It was a big name that was just signing like a couple months ago. Creator of Punisher. I don't know if you know that. Gerry Conway was the writer. He created Punisher. Punisher, biggest it's ever been now. Literally 50 years later, because I don't know when ASM 129 was done, what year it was, but it was at least 50 years ago. Has a Punisher movie come out yet? Or just the TV shows? Punisher's only getting bigger. Only getting bigger. It's what people want to see. They want to see the guts, the gory, the violence. They want to see the anti-hero. Just like Wolverine. We want to see the anti-hero. We want to see people kill people. That's the big thing in the 80s. We wanted Rambo back. Allard Richardson's the big actor now. We want to see people do that. It's come full circle. I guess the last 15, 20 years, everyone's like, no, we need the little Tom Cruise guy, or we need the anti-violent guy like Daredevil. But just as much as Rambo and Terminator and Alan Schwarzenegger was popular in the 80s and started, Dirty Harry was the first one to start, killing the bad guys, and it wasn't done before that. It wasn't accepted. It wasn't normal, I guess. And so these anti-heroes, almost kind of bad guys that kill the bad guys, became popular in the 80s, and then it went out of style, and it seems to have been back, like I said, with Allard Richardson's Reacher and, Punisher's getting popular, and who's the other guy I just said? Of course, Wolverine's back now, so everybody wants to see Wolverine, destroy something more than a machine, I would think. Anyways, guys, take advantage of the opportunities as you get them. Life is moving quickly. Happy hunting. Was watching some stuff today about, rereading some stuff today about the new trends, and one of them is the blind boxes and the gambling, and I was writing with somebody about that today, and it's a slippery slope, man. Be careful. That's what I did in the 90s. We were all gambling with whatever money we had, just assuming we were going to make money, and then the market fell out, and it hurt some of us. So many of us, we quit. What was the guy on Comic Tom? I just saw him do his video yesterday. He was the guy that was there and then quit. He had lost 10 grand speculating on some books. But when I saw his video, man, he went back to just trade books. What was his name? Not the Golden Age Guru, but the other guy who quit about a year ago. He was just speculating on books because he was doing the videos and thinking, wow, all these people are making money when the market was going up. And he spent $20,000 on books off of eBay, of all things. Like, he didn't get any advice. No one even helped him. If he wanted to buy those books, he could have bought them somewhere else totally different than eBay, but he was just speculating on Namor coming to, Black Panther, and he lost 10,000, and it just beat him up, burned him out emotionally, and he quit Comic Tom's, and I don't know what he's doing now, but he was talking about his story about how he lost so much money, and we were writing about these blind bags and gambling and people turning a fun hobby into something that's a life destroyer. We just had some bad news in our family that happened, and it kind of regrounds you back at what is important, what are my priorities, and so it can be good in that regards. But anyways, just saw that Roy Thomas passed away, and it makes you pause, makes you stop and think, especially someone who was just there a few minutes ago. And I wonder if he'll get any special mention in the upcoming Punisher TV series. That'd be nice to say in memory of, at least. Anyways, guys, happy hunting, safe hunting, smart hunting. Take care.